Don't move, Potter, said Snape lazily, clearly enjoying the sight of Harry standing motionless, eye to eye with the angry snake. I'll get rid of it. Allow me, shouted Lockhart. He brandished his wand at the snake, and there was a loud bang. The snake, instead of vanishing, flew 10 feet into the air and fell back on the floor with a loud smack. Enraged, hissing furiously, it slithered straight toward Justin flinchfletchily and raised itself again, fangs exposed, poised to strike. Harry wasn't sure what made him to do it. He was even aware of deciding to do it. All he knew was his legs were carrying him forward as though he was on a coaster, as that he had shouted stupidly at the snake, "Leave him alone." And miraculously, inexplicably, the snake slumped on the floor, docile as a thick black-curtained horse, its eyes on Harry. Harry felt the fear drain out on him. He knew the snake wouldn't attack anyone now, though how he knew it. Snake wouldn't attack everyone. Now, he couldn't have explained. He looked up at Justin, grinning, expecting to see Justin looking revolted or puzzled or even grateful, but certainly not angry and scared. "What do you think you're playing at?" he shouted. And before Harry could say anything, Justin had turned around and stormed out of the hole. Snape stepped forward, waved his wand, and the snake vanished in a small puff of black smoke. Snape, too, was looking at Harry in an unexpected way. It was a shrewd and calculating look, and Harry didn't like it. He was also dimly aware of an enormous muttering all around the walls. Then he felt a tugging on the back of his robes. "Come on," said Ron voicingly. "Move, come on." Ron steered him out of the hole, Hermione hurrying alongside through away as though they were frightened of catching something. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on, and neither Ron nor Hermione explained anything until they had dragged him all the way up to the empty Gryffindor common room. Then Ron pushed Harry into an armchair and said, "You're a puzzle mouth. Why didn't you tell us?" "I'm what?" said Harry. "A puzzle mouth," said Ron. "You can talk to snakes." "I know," said Harry. "I mean, that's only the second time I ever done it. I accidentally set a boa constrictor on my cousin Dudley at the zoo once. Long story, but it was telling me it had never been seen Brazil, and I sort of set it free without meaning to. That was before I knew I was a wizard." "A boa constrictor told you it had never been to Brazil?" Ron repeated faintly. "So," said Harry, "I bet lots of people here can do it." "Oh, no, they can't," said Ron. "It's not a very common gift. Harry, that is bad." "What's bad?" said Harry, starting to feel quite angry. "What's wrong with everyone? Listen, if I hadn't told the snake not to attack Justin—" "Oh, that's what you said to it." "What do you mean? You were there. You heard me." "I heard you speaking puzzle tongue." said Ron. Snake language, you could have been saying anything. No wonder Justin panicked. You sounded like you're egging the snake on or something. It was creepy, you know. Harry gabbed at him. I spoke a different language, but I didn't realize. How can I speak a language without knowing I can speak it? Ron shook his head. Both he and Hermione were looking as though someone had died. Harry couldn't see what was so terrible. Do you want to tell me what's wrong with stop a massive snake biting off Justin's head? He said. What does it matter how I did it as long as Justin doesn't have to join the headless hunt? Because being able to talk to Snake was what Salazar Slytherin was famous for. That's why the symbol of Slytherin House is serpent. Harry's mouth fell open. Exactly, said Ron. And now the whole school is going to think you're his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson or something. But I'm not, said Harry, which a panic he couldn't quite explain. You'll find that hard to prove, said Hermione. He lived about 1,000 years ago. For all we know, he could be. Harry lay awake for hours that day. Through a gap in the curtains, around his four posters, he watched snow starting to drift past the tower window and wondered, could he be a descendant of Slytherin? He didn't know anything about his father's family. After all, the Dursleys had already forbidden questions about his wizarding relatives. Quietly, Harry tried to say something in puzzled tongue. The word wouldn't come. It seemed he had to face with the snake to do it. But I'm Gryffindor, Harry thought. The Sorting Hat wouldn't have put me in here if I had Slytherin blood. Oh, said a nasty little voice he breathed. But the Sorting Hat wanted to put you in Slytherin, don't you remember? Harry turned over. He'd seen Justin the next day in herbology, and he'd explained that he'd been calling the snake off, not egging it on, which any fool should have realized, he thought angrily, pluming his pillow. By next morning, however, the snow that had begun in the lots had turned into a blizzard so thick that the herbology lesson of the term was cancelled. Professor Sprout wanted to fit socks and skirts on the mandrakes, a tricky operation she could entrust to no one else. Now that it was so important for mandrakes to grow quickly and revive Mrs. Norris and Colin Creevey. Harry fretted about his next to the fire in the Gryffindor common room, while Ron and Hermione used their time off to play a game of wizard chess. For heaven's sake, Harry, said Hermione, expressionless, as one of Ron's bishops wrestled her knight off his horse and dragged him off the board. Go and find Justin. It's so important for you. So Harry got up and left through the portal, wondering where Justin might be. The castle was darker than it usually was in daytime because of the thick swirling gray snow at every window. Shivering, Harry walked past classroom where lessons were taking place, catching snatches of what was happening within. Professor McGonagall was shouting at someone who, by sound of it, had turned his friend into a badger. Restinge, it urged. Restinge. Urged to take a look. Harry walked on by, thinking that Justin might be using his free time to catch up on some work, and decided to check the library first. A group of Hufflepuffs who should have been in herbology were in it, sitting at the back of the library, but they didn't seem to be working. Between the long lines of high bookshelves, Harry could see their hats were close together as they were having what looked like an absorbing conversation. He couldn't see whether Justin was among them. He was walking toward them when something of what they were saying met his ears, and he paused to listen, hidden in the invisibility section. So anyway, a stout boy was saying, I told Justin to hide up in the dormitory. I mean to say, if Potters mark him down as the next victim, it's best if he keeps a low profile for a while. Of course, Justin's been waiting for something like this to happen ever since he let slip to Potter he was a Muggle-born. Justin actually told him he'd been down for Aden. That's not the kind of thing you bandy about the Slytherin here on the loose, isn't it? You definitely think it's Potter, then, Ernie, said the girl with blonde pigtails anxiously. Hannah, said the stout boy solemnly. He's a passing mouth. Everyone knows that the mark of dark wizard. Have you ever heard a descent on who could talk to snake? They call Slytherin himself serpent-tongued. There was some heavy murmuring at this, and Ernie went on. Remember what was written on the wall? Enemies of the hair beware. Potter and some sort of run-in with Filch. Next thing we know, Filch's cat attacked. That first year, Creevy was annoying Potter at the Quidditch match, taking pictures of him while he was laying in the mud. Next thing we know, Creevy has been attacked. He always seems so nice, though, said Hannah uncertainly. And, well, he's the one who made you know who disappeared. He can't be all bad, can he? Ernest lowered his voice mysteriously. The Hufflepuffs bent closer, and Harry edged nearer so that he could catch Ernest's words. No one knows how he survived by attack by you-know-who. I mean to say, he was only a baby when it happened. He should have been basted in smithereens. Only a real powerful dark wizard could have survived a course like that. He dropped his voice until it was barely more than whisper and said, That's probably why you-know-who wanted to kill him in the first place. Didn't want another Dark Lord companion with them. I wondered what other powers Potter had been hiding. Harry couldn't type more, clearing his throat loudly. He stepped out of behind the bookshelves. If he hadn't been feeling so angry, he would have found the sight of greeted him funny. Every one of the Hoopoe looked as though they had been petrified of sight of them, and the color draining out of Ernie's face.